tracking their own data, looking into that sort of thing. But then when it comes to the one that Apple highlighted, we work at the Mayo Clinic, right? So Mayo has an app that essentially takes all of the data that you've uploaded from a variety of sources, whether it be hand input or from devices you own, and then that is the thing where you ask for authorization and it uploads it to their cloud. So basically I expect that every healthcare provider is going to have a similar app that takes that data from whatever it may be and either uploads it or syncs it or downloads it or does whatever it is they need to do to allow that upload, and then also to allow some of the things we're talking about for diagnostics, healthcare records, etc.
So Ron, just to make sure that I understand, so basically you're talking about static data repository on one end of it. On the other spectrum, it's dynamic data repository through the sensor, and it's kind of like iTunes creating the cloud application. So this is Apple's way of then creating the universal data center in the cloud.
It's not in the cloud. It's only on device.
Okay, I thought you said
it's you would as a healthcare as a clinic or Sharp or whoever you guys are, you would have your own app that would take this data and potentially upload it to your own cloud. But Apple doesn't keep it.
But hypothetically, Sharp could adopt that or could interface with Epic, let's say, to Ravi's point, because what's missing right now is universal data, right? It's an example of ATM being used anywhere, so you can pull money out from anywhere in the United States or somewhere else. Same thing right now, we can't do that with our own records, right?
Right.
So it sounds like you're saying static repository, dynamic repository, with a sensor, and is that a push to the cloud?
There's no HealthKit itself it's just a box that doesn't.
So that app that you were talking about, that
the theoretical,
I forget the name, the program.
Yeah.
I thought that had extensions that kind of.
Yeah. So it's just so in the if you want to think about like the worst possible way of getting a standards movement, it'd be to have your device loaded from your Epic and the competitor onto the device, both into HealthKit, and then loaded somewhere else.
Right.
Horrible way to do it. But theoretically, it would come down to that point where you could make it work. Hopefully, nobody does that. So, hopefully, Epic and these guys actually think about it.
Are people building APIs for HealthKit, like Fitbit or Withering or any of the other?
The line. So they presented. I went to the HealthKit when they presented it to the developers, and then afterwards they have a lab downstairs. And the lab was like wrapped around the room with developers who were either writing apps or had their little shirts on for the device that they were making for doing measurements. And they were all stepping up on how do we integrate, how do we get our data in, how do we start inputting this. Like there was, it was a line of several hundred people long.
It makes a lot of sense because eventually it will become the iTunes of the health data.
Yeah.
It's not especially with that application that you're talking about. That's parallel processing and push data and pull data at any given time. So I would imagine that down the line there's some analytics. While we're trying to bring that down, but we can't.
Is it launched already?
It's not launched yet.
Okay.
Oh.
I can
Developers.
Yeah, I do have the developer version on my laptop if you're curious. So I think the way that as a device manufacturer, as a Fitbit owner, or Fitbit, if I was Fitbit or whatever else, right? I'm excited about this because it means I have my own app, you can track stuff in, but I can also go and take anything else you might have and get a better view of you, right? So if I have, so Fitbit in particular, right? They might partner or know that somebody else is tracking sleep and compare two different sleep overlays, right? So here's the Fitbit sleep versus the Fuel Band sleep, and here's why we're a better measurement or whatever, right? And then they also know that you as Sharp or Epic, whoever it is, only has to talk. They never have to talk to Fitbit or anybody. They only talk to HealthKit to get their data up. So it creates that central point for everybody to meet and congregate.
This is obviously proprietary to iOS only.
Yeah, I imagine we're in between. Like we're 2 weeks away from the Google conference.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna have. I don't think they're gonna have an answer to it. I expect that they would have something in the near future, and I also think you can also be providing, someone will have provided probably already an analog to this on Android. So
yeah, to your point earlier, for mobile first development and all that applies. You don't want to have to develop, for example, a Google solution for one company and an iOS solution for another company. Even those versions will throw you off.
Yeah.
Because the versions change so much.
Yeah.
On Android, stuff like that. So is it more worthwhile to, for lack of a better explanation, pick a vendor and ride? Or is it more worthwhile to take this as the catalyst in order to build a larger, more universal type system that will force these people into, from the question earlier, to some more standardization around APIs and data transfer?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I don't think you can, if you're in the market for dealing with this type of data, you can't ignore HealthKit, right? You should be writing something now, even if it's iOS specific, that takes advantage of it. Ideally, if you are using a multi-platform solution like PhoneGap or whatever, Android will have an answer, but even if they don't, it might be something where it's like, Android's going to get pressure to add that, and then you can add that later. So, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Yeah, I mean, some of the apps, certainly, like I have an Android, but some of the apps, a lot of the apps that are cross-platform, right? I mean, you get my Jawbone iFit.
Right, yeah.
I have the app on both sides.
Yeah.
Right, so it fits both sides. But this is very proprietary to Apple.
Yeah.
And so it wouldn't be available to me. This is not enough catalyst for me to switch devices.
No.
Just for one app. But from a market share standpoint, it's probably a good coattail to jump on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think,
the problem is so complex here because in order for you to really use mobile, why do you use mobile is because it's the most current data at any given time, right?
Right.
Or the information that you need is available, which I be on the cloud. Neither of those today in healthcare today, all day long, we've been spending is something we can get to, even on the roundtables we do, right? So even Sharp or one provider, let's say Kaiser, even they can't do that for their own different disciplines today. So that's how complex this puzzle is. So in order to solve this, you almost have to kind of just narrow down the problem, and then I agree with you, it has to be one platform, but this is a one step in the right direction. And have
Apple has narrowed it down. I think they started very
This is
limited.
better than
It is, and like you said, this isn't syncing to the cloud yet.
right. Yeah.
But it is the first step, where they're going. And I think the other thing is, traditional IT, enterprise IT, thinkers and builders and designers, I mean, really where we need to be is starting here in our design thinking process versus traditional big, heavy internal systems. I think that's what drives those low adoption scores with EMR. It's a very internally focused, kind of an ERP approach to big record, big system. It just doesn't work. If you start here and then bring in, and we talk about consumerization and linkage, I think that is a catalyst for many, many reasons.
Well, there's a
But
reason
don't
why.
jump away from your Android though.
No. There's a reason why iOS devices don't come with a manual. Well, that's by design. Right? They don't come in the manual because they're designed to be self-intuitive.
Yeah.
So you're not supposed to have the book. Right? So
The only issue that I have with this is, again, if all the data is on the device,
Yeah.
you run the risk of, the device is interchangeable and disposable.
Yeah.
And I look at it as being, other than teleradiology, what medical data is that big that pushing to the cloud is going to either...
It's the issue is the format, in order to create the master data.
Well, the data, I'll tell you what's big is videos and images.
Right.
And
Right.
so
Video,
and that's
again, but it's a question of are you turning your smartphone into just a display, or are you keeping the entire video and then storing it? And, I don't know why you ever want to do that.
I'm fascinated with this because if I'm correct, what it's doing is solving the interoperability problem because there's nothing to interoperate. You're just taking these disparate systems, putting this layer on top. And so I think it was you